How you doing, everybody? How's it going? How's your day going? How is your Saturday? Unless you're American? No, if you're American, it's 2:45 in the morning. Uh, in the East Coast, you might be West Coast American. If you're West Coast American, it's still Friday, but it's late Friday. You should probably go to bed. How's everybody doing? Croaky today. Do I still get to say evening after it kicks over midnight? Or do I get to start with morning at that point? I feel like there's a difference in scientifically and socially in the same way that people argue about tomatoes being fruit or vegetables. Like, yes, scientifically they're fruit, but culinarily, practically they're vegetables. And in the same way, like, yes, scientifically it's morning for you if it's 12:05, but culturally, societally, socially, it's still night, right? Still, you can still say night. You still say good evening, good night at like 2 in the morning if you've been up until that time. I reckon it doesn't actually become morning until like 4. If you do an all nighter or not even an all nighter, but just like stay up till like 5 a.m. I think at that point you can start saying good morning to people. Morning, because at that point crazy people are getting up to go for runs and stuff. Like people are voluntarily getting up at 5 a.m. to just like do health things. It's insane. Um, at that point, yes, you can say good morning to the people who are like I did an all-nighter at Gen Con, and we were just sitting around a hotel lobby and we were up for long enough that people started checking out of the hotel and like coming down to the concierge and we were like, I guess it's morning now. So, it's been Saturday for 3 hours. Checks notes. 3 hours. I like the implication that you're taking notes of the times. Like a very obsessive dungeon master that's like keeping track of the hour by hour ongoing of your party. I was up till 2:30. It's now 7:45. I'm awake and don't have tea yet, so I can't comment on that yet. We should check with Wraith and see what time she thinks it is. Yeah, because for Wraith it should be 6:50 p.m. Which would be anyone's guess. Morning, maybe for her. I just realized I'm not a penguin here. Got to change that. I usually use YouTube under a different account. I realized I'm not a penguin here. Oh, you're right. Your profile picture. I was like lost for a second. All right. Who's here? Let's see. Winter Ghost's here. Lanthos is here. Melissa is here. Amberdrift, Fancy Unicorn, Winter Ghost, JREX Gaming, Amberdrift, JMT, Keyboard Smashed, and Liska. Greetings from Corfu. I'm going to say hello and again, thanks for the great Private Sanctum game. I am glad you enjoyed it. Have a nice Saturday. Waves and leaves the chat to go hiking. Nice. Michael Pilot's here. What up? I went to Ghost JMT. It's funny now. I have like names and faces. I can put faces with some people's names now because I'd be like, "Oh, I met you. We played a game together. I know what some of you guys look like." Ian Benson, what up? Amber Drift, Fancy, Winter Ghost, Keyboard Smashed. I think that's it. I think I'm caught up with you. Caught up with you all. How are you doing? What y'all up to? What's been going on for you all lately? Before I start chatting about what's going on with me. Doing anything fun? Any good stories? Anybody working on anything big? Any big projects? Any big news? Good news? Bad news? In between news? You'll never see my face. I will forever be a penguin. I'm new to Patreon and heard on Discord about you hitting Wraith with your card. Can you please tell a story of this? It's all lies and slander to try and cast aspersions on the lovely mayor of the Discord server. It's all there's no truth to it at all. Everybody made it up. They're gaslighting you. Or I played chicken with her with my car, and she didn't give up, so I hit her with my car. That's about all there is to the story. I met a wild fancy this week, says Winter Ghost. And Fancy met a wild winter. What a coincidence. Wrapped 2 movies so far this summer, maybe starting a TV show in 2 weeks. Wrapped as in wrapped filming? Like are you a director? Are you an actor? What's your involvement in movies? I'm adrift. I made Greek food. Almost the same Greek food. I like Greek food. No, the story is Rafe and I were visiting a mutual friend's house. I got in my car to leave at the end of the day. I can't remember why, but I started driving towards her. Maybe she'd goaded me, maybe she was just there and I felt like doing it. I was driving at like maybe a walking pace, if not even slower. And I was like intent on not moving and just coming towards her and towards her and towards her like real slow, seeing if she'd eventually get out of the way. But she stood her ground and just stood in the middle of she was in the middle of the road, by the way. She stood in the middle of the road and just waited and waited as I came towards her slower and slower and slower. Apparently, her intention was to just like collapse onto the bonnet of my car. Uh, but once my car hit her shins, she went boop and fell backwards instead of falling forwards onto my bonnet. That was the extent of me hitting Wraith with my car. What you been working on, Rob? All right. Well, since you guys haven't got exciting working on stories, let me tell you. Let me tell you my amazing work stories. Amber says, first movie I was set medic. Second, I was key special effects. Oh, those are interesting. Occasionally, I am a grip and an actor. Man, all over the place, Amber. Where are you based? What's your sitch? Got my first stunt credit. Fucking hell! Leave some for somebody else. Greedy bitch. Gonna be director and writer. I am also script supervisor and catering. Have you done catering yet? Makeup, hair, costume. Now it's just can Rob name all of the different elements of film production. Editor, um, producer. Canada. I see. Toronto and Atlantic Canada. Toronto's good for film, eh? I've heard there's a lot of things filmed in Toronto, in and around. It was after that event that Rob got hit by a car for reals. Yeah, I actually got hit by a car while crossing a road. Knocked me over, knocked me to the middle of the road, bounced off the bonnet and everything, and then she drove away, claimed it was my fault. And then the police were like, "Well, you shouldn't have been crossing at that point, so she's not to blame." That's not how the law works, but fuck you. It's the wrong time of day for most of our brains to compute words. That is fair enough. Unfortunately, this was the only time that I could do it and still be within September for the charisma check. Because yesterday I was busy through the day, obviously, and then in the evening had my BTS 201. Tonight, busy through the day, and then have my sync stream tonight, where I'm going to be going over Johnny Stanton's Hierarchy supplemental. There's 5e supplemental with all sorts of like different subclasses and things for new playable content for 5e. I'm very excited for it from the little I've seen of it. So that's tonight. Couldn't do the Patreon charisma check then. Tomorrow I've got dinner with friends, so I couldn't do it then. Monday I've got a chat with Dice Goblin, my dice affiliates. So I couldn't do it then. Tuesday I've got another BTS. I couldn't do it then. So and by Wednesday we're into October. So I was like, I gotta do my private sanctum. I gotta do it through the day, which is not great timing for some of you, but oh well. C'est la vie. La vie en rose. I've done costume and in theatre I do pretty much everything. Audio, rigging, video, caps, lighting. Caps? Lighting, props. We learn everything. Yeah, fair enough. One woman show. I don't have a lot of exciting stuff, sadly. Watching your stuff with the Misfits and Adventures of Azarim made me interested in maybe doing some DMing for my group, but that'll be in a few months. Do it. Do it, Lanthos. You've got this. It's easier than wait, Lanthos or Ianthos? I think most oh no, keyboard isn't capitalized K, so it's not automatically capitalized. Could be lowercase L. Is it lowercase L or is it capital I? Ianthos, Lanthos. JMT is also capital J, so it doesn't have to be capital first letter. It's Lanthos. Sorry about that. It can be confusing. There you go. Capital lowercase L. Sync is going on YouTube like Brit's one. Yes, yeah, Sync will be going up to YouTube like Brit's one. If you haven't seen Brit's one yet, I just did a short rest with Brit Scott Clark that's gone up onto my YouTube, and within a day was the second most watched video on my YouTube channel, which is awesome for that video and very depressing for all of my other videos that they can be so easily beaten. Like a attractive woman on a thumbnail and connection to Viva La Dirt League. I'm gonna watch this video. I'm not a woman, they, he. Oh, my mistake. With the Amber, I think it was just, yeah, Amber is associated with generally female names, so I had misgendered you. I apologize. They, he, understand that, but Amber Drift is a lighting thing. I did not know that. I didn't hear about. I didn't know what Amber Drift. Amber Drift, I assume, is like when there's a color, like the white balance is off, and everything has been drifted towards amber. Like if you're using yellow lighting. Is film unionized in NZ, or is it unionized in NZ? Many different unions and locales in Canada. Is it unionized? Yes, I think. I think so. Chill with all pronouns as long as it's not used maliciously. I'll also respond to hey you. That is fair enough. What was I saying? Something about sync and Brit's one, yeah, yeah. So Brit's video has done really well, and it's done well enough to break beyond my YouTube subscribers, I think, and just start getting into people's recommended. People who watch Viva La Dirt League and have seen things with Brit in them, I guess. Because a couple of the comments were like, "Oh, this came up in my recommendeds, and I didn't know you had your own channel," and blah blah blah. So that's great. More people have been discovering that I have my own channel because of the success of the Brits short rest. It obviously tells me I should probably be doing short rests with the other people from Viva as well, because they would probably do pretty well on my channel. Display before you started streaming said to ask you about your daily horoscope. Fuck up. Fuck up. Is somebody that is somebody trolling me? I do not do horoscopes. I think they're all fucking nonsense. Yeah, I should have Tom on. That would be a good short rest. Get Tom involved. Get Ben involved as well. The director Ben. We can dress him up for the thumbnail. Why are we dressing up Tom? Why are we dressing him up for the thumbnail? um, Somebody asked me something before I didn't get to. Oh, it was Ejo asking me, what have I been up to? Ah, yes, good question. Let's see. What have I been up to? Traveling a lot. When was the last time we talked for Patreon Charisma Check? It was early September, wasn't it? Because we tried in August and it didn't work. So we tried again. Then it was the 10th. So it was about 18 days ago. What have I been doing since then? Oh, dress him up in the thumbnail to compete with Brit, right? Yeah, make Tom look like an attractive woman in the thumbnail. See if we can get as many clicks. Amber drifted or shift is a phenomenon of incandescent lamps in which the perceived color temperature of the light source changes as larger amounts of electricity flows through it. Oh, okay. More electricity through the incandescent lamps changes the color temperature. That makes sense. There's obviously it's getting hotter. The whole point of an incandescent lamp is that it gets hotter. It's most of it is actually heat, not light. Light is a byproduct. More power looks cooler daylight and looks warmer. That makes sense. Patreon Charisma Check. That was 10th of September. What have I done since then? I have I went to the beach with Fancy. That was a lot of fun. We walked for ages along the beach and enjoyed like a rock pool up on the beaches of Scotland. It was actually really nice beach weather in that it was kind of chilly and overcast, so you don't need to worry about wasting all your time getting all sticky and slathered up in fucking sunscreen, which is one of the worst parts about having to go to the beach because you're like, so much skin though, and it all burns immediately. So I've got to make sure I put on so much fucking sunscreen, which takes forever and makes me feel gross. But in weather where it's like not sunbathing weather, you can just dress up proper with like fucking hoods and everything and get dressed up against the cold, but still enjoy a nice pleasant walk along the beach. Um, so we did a beach walk, and then we went to a wind farm, which was so much fun. I got to see wind turbines up close. First time in my life I've ever been that close to actually like touch a wind turbine and see just how fucking massive they are. It's so big. Uh, I did some like I enjoyed doing a bit of maths as we walked along. On the way into the wind farm, there's this huge wind turbine blade just kind of sitting there at the entrance to the car park, so that you can go up and touch it and see how long they are and stuff. And I did like some very quick mental maths by pacing out how many paces it was and equating that to meters, guessing that they're about 35 meters long, and then looking at the ones that are like spinning and going, okay, well, that's roughly a third of the height of the thing. So then if that and that, and then one of these again is so the whole thing's probably about this tall. And then I watched them and went round and round, and I was like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. So it took about 4 seconds to complete a circuit. So if it's that long, the radius of the outside of the circle that they're tracing is this, and if they do that amount of distance in just 4 seconds, then the tip of the blade is going about 216 kilometers an hour. All that stuff. It was a lot of fun to just like do the little maths. And then I saw a little thing. I saw a little thing that said each. What was it? Each. No, that was it. I worked out if it's doing 4 seconds per revolution, then it's doing X number of revolutions per 24-hour period. Obviously, it's not because the speed of the thing changes with the wind. But like as an average, it'll be around there. Because it wasn't like an incredibly blustery day and it wasn't still, so I felt like we were somewhere in the average. So if it speeds up and slows down within the day, it'll average out to about this. So I was doing that, and then I did like a quick head count, as it were, of all of the turbines that I could see within a particular radius of me, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to estimate that this place, which was the largest onshore wind farm in the UK, I think, um, I estimated that they had somewhere around 200 between 200 and 250 wind turbines there. I later saw a sign that said they had 216, I think it was, um, something like that. Anyway, I've got it on my photos somewhere. Um, and I was really disappointed by one thing. They had a sign that said our wind turbines produce can produce X number of megawatts of energy, which is enough to power X number of houses. Does anybody else see the problem that I would have with that sign, or have watched my Instagram stories where I probably ranted about it? I don't know if I've actually got to Scotland yet, have I, with my Instagram stories? I'm very behind with them. I'm not taking things every day while in Perth, so I will eventually catch up. Does sun not exist in Scotland, or you just resign yourself to getting burnt? It just doesn't exist. Is the wind farm just open to go in? Yeah, it's like a big open patch of land where you can just walk around them. There's like rambling trails and hiking tracks and stuff that you can go around. No burn, but still skin cancer. Got it. No one sees the problem that I have with the sign that says our wind turbines produce X amount of energy, X amount of energy, and which is enough for powering X number of houses. Been playing a lot of Satisfactory lately, and this talk of maths for things really makes me think of trying to figure inputs and outputs in the game for production of items and power. You don't do that? You play Satisfactory just willy-nilly, just jumping around the place? That's bizarre. Like, you have to put the maths in. You have to be like, okay, my output that I want of this particular the factory in Satisfactory, I want this thing to be producing this many batteries, right? And in order to produce one battery, they need two of these and one of those, and it takes 33 seconds to make a battery. So I need two of those in there and one of those every 30 seconds, blah blah blah, again and again and again. Fancy says, I remember the issue you had with it loudly. Depends on the amount of wind to how much power it generates. That is a problem, but not the problem that I have with the sign. I'm guessing it depends on the output of each house, the number of people, size of home, etc. I did have that problem with it, but I thought, they're using the average home, I guess, which is fine. But the problem I had with it, that none of you have picked up on, it seems, is the number is meaningless without a time. Our wind farm produces X amount of energy. X amount of energy per what? X amount of energy per second? X amount of energy every time one thing completes a circuit? X amount of energy an hour? X amount of energy in a whole year? Those are very different numbers and very different meanings, right? If it's producing 100 megawatts of energy, ooh, is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. 100 megawatts every second is fucking incredible. 100 megawatts a second, 100 megawatts in like in its lifespan of like 20 years, that's fucking nothing. Like, it tells me nothing. Sign tells me nothing without the rate. Tell me the rate of energy that you're creating. When you were at Casa Loma, you were 1 kilometer from my house. Oh, cool. Anyway, so unfortunately, I didn't manage to work like what I was trying to work out from all of that. What I wanted to work out. I was doing all this mental maths was as I was walking around, and what I wanted to know was how much energy does a single spin of one single wind turbine produce, and is it just a rate of it produces the same amount of energy per spin of the cycle. So obviously on a windier day, it's just cycling faster, so it's producing more energy, but not per thing. It's producing the same amount per thing. Or is it that as it's going faster, it's actually producing more energy per spin as well? I don't know. They have a museumy bit. We can go next time. When we arrived, the museumy bit was open. But I didn't know that it was going to close at fucking 5 p.m. or something. And so we went for a walk up to touch one of them and then came back. And by the time we came back, the museum was closed. We should have gone to the museum first when we arrived. And then when they closed, we gone for a walk up to meet all of the things in person and say hello to them and pat them and give them a hug. See, when you said amount of energy, I assumed it specified time. No, the sign said we produce X amount of energy, which is enough to fuel this many houses for an entire day, for a week, for a month, or just for like 5 minutes. It's enough to power all of the houses of Scotland for 1 minute. Okay, cool. 5 p.m. is a normal closing time. Yeah, well, I didn't know that. Cost museums are only open till 5. 95 Jobs, ever heard of it? No, me neither. Nope, never heard of it. Well, really, it's just for kids. It's for kids and me. I wanted to ask them all the questions about the numbers of things. Also, I wanted to know why are the wind turbines they use different lengths? Because the sign that I saw was uh, it said each of our turbine blades can be 40 to 50 meters long, and I was like, oh, the one as I entered the car park was I only measured it to be about 35 meters 33 meters with my steps. So either I was taking very long steps, which I don't think so, but it did make me think I better get a tape measure out and measure how long my strides are, just because I used to think this is about a meter, and maybe that's drifted and lengthened over time, and now I'm incorrect in my estimations. Um, so either that or the one by the entrance is only like 30 meters long and the others are like 40 to 50, and like why? What's the difference? What does it matter? The longer one's catching more wind, I guess. So do you put them in windier places? No, you put them in less windy places so they can catch more wind. But by putting them in those But by making them longer, they're heavier, and so you need more wind to turn them. So I wanted to ask them all of this. At least they're consistent. No time signs for energy output and no time signs for wind flows. Maybe they confused installed capacity for energy. I don't know. A vague memory yearly is the standard in Sweden. Like if it doesn't give a rate, you just assume per year. I also go to the museums and read all the signs there. You've existed for over a third of a century. You're not knowing 5 p.m. is irregular to be expected closing times on you. Nah, don't know what you're talking about. Everybody should close. I live in a city, hey Joe. In cities, things don't close at 5. All right. So I've lived in a city for more than half of my life. Things don't close at 5 in Auckland. Okay. Shops are open until 10, 11, sometimes 24 hours. Also, places where people want to go with the work need to be open after 5. So, like entertainment things like cinemas and museums, they do tend to stay open after 5 because people need to go to them. You can't go if you're at work, if you're working a 9 to 5 job. Businesses like offices and shit, they can stay open 9 to 5, but then people need to go and do things, fun things after 5 p.m. In Berlin, I was disappointed by the museum opening hours. Often it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. 6 or 8 is not normal closing hours here on weekdays. Filmed at a historic fortress thing, and they had a VR simulation of you rowing in the harbour, intended for kids, but you bet I didn't. It sounds fun. Did you have to go and stand in the harbour? Like, how do you VR rowing? In fact, the one near the entrance is so close to fulfilling its destiny and isn't. You need to come back then, Rob. Yeah, that's why you did it. I see your plan. Why didn't you notice the signs indicating the museum's opening hours when you were reading the signs? There weren't. There weren't. We didn't go up to the museum until afterwards. And then I went around the car park and read all of the signs in the. I went around and read all of the signs that are available in the car park, even after the museum's closed. I just didn't get to see any signs inside the museum. I also live in a city for my whole life, and yes, they do. You live in a small city, not an Auckland city, okay? Maybe in small cities things close at 5. Banks, perhaps. Bats can die from just flying in the wake of one of those things. I don't like having been up to them. I used to hear that about a what's the word, like a an argument against wind farms was like, oh, they kill a lot of birds and flying animals and things. Having been up to them, I'm like, why the fuck would a bird be flying into this? Why the fuck would a bird be flying anywhere near this thing? It looks terrifying, and it's very big and very obvious that it's there. And there's no trees around, obviously, because they don't. You're not going to put a wind farm in a fucking jungle. Like there's no wind. So the wide open space. Why is a bird flying through this area? I couldn't understand it. I don't know. Birds also hang out at airports. Yeah, that's just a fuck with humans, right? When they're done with life and they just throw themselves into engines. Mm. That's what going home is done. Done with work and stay there for the evening. At the Louvre, I was allowed to go for free from 5:45 p.m. when I was a student, and I often went there in the evenings. Now it's always free for under 25s. Oh, that's cool. Museums in New Zealand are just free anyway. I think every museum in New Zealand's free from memory. I don't go to museums all that often. They don't interest me that much, generally speaking. Um, but I'm pretty sure museums are free. They just all have donation boxes and like signs everywhere saying, "Hey, we rely on your donations. If you've enjoyed today, make sure to give us some money or whatever." There's a reason why bird brain is a thing. Oh, you're gonna get Ajo started on the bird brain thing. If instead of wind turbines we had coal-fired power stations, it's much more damaging to biodiversity, including the birds. Yeah, yeah. A couple of birds will die on wind farms. Yep, maybe. Do you know how much of the planet will die if we don't fucking change to something uh, more ecological? Main Museum in Sydney, 5 p.m. Auckland Museum, 5 p.m. British Museum in London, 5 p.m. Lies. Lies and slander. Once booked a ticket to visit a windmill, but despite its enormous size, I couldn't manage to find it. What? You booked a ticket to visit a windmill. How did you not know where the windmill was? How are you booking tickets if you don't know where it is? Are you booking them online? And if they're online, why is there not a map on their website of where it is? And how do you find out about the windmill if it's so? There's so many questions. What? How do you book a What? Last museums I went to were in South Korea, and they were free and open pretty late. That's the ones in Seoul. I see no Ajo, I'm safe. Ajo is Alyssa Johnson. It's not the size that counts, it's the density of the neurons. Birds are smarter than mammals as a whole. No, they're not. Obviously not, because we're mammals and we develop tools. Therefore, all mammals are smart and all birds are stupid. LACMA in LA is open until 6 p.m. Not much longer, but at least it's not 5. They process information at super speed. Yeah, but only like small amounts of information because they've got tiny bird brains and they're stupid. That's not so yeah, but it's fun though. It's fun to get her all riled up. Several bird species use tools. No, they don't. I don't see any toolboxes designed for birds. I don't go to the hardware store and see birds shopping for hammers and chisels. Also filmed in a coal mine, turned into a museum. Also read the signs and did the 4D simulation. 4D simulation cart ride thing. That sounds fun. Oh, you woke up and chose violence this morning. I did, yes. Anyway, we got as far as going to a wind farm. That was fun. What else did we do? Then I drove to Campbelltown, went all the way around Scotland's little penis, essentially, off the west coast, the flaccid penis of Scotland. It was a nice drive through the Highlands, and into Campbelltown, middle of nowhere. Very nice little town, only like 2,000 people live there or something. Um, it was it was surprising how much I could see myself living somewhere like that. It was like I was like, huh, as long as I had good, strong internet connection, I could live as remote as I wanted to in future. Like I could see myself taking a couple of years and just going to live somewhere completely out of the way. And just like streaming and writing and working and just enjoying small town life. That could be fun. How was the Loch Lomond part? The road I was like, be careful on. It's all fine. We didn't have any problems on the roads at all. Um, we went to the cinema in Campbelltown and watched Beetlejuice. Watched the whole point of going to Campbelltown was that a friend of mine runs the Campbelltown Picture House. Um, used to run a cinema in Auckland where I and and we became friends. And then she moved back to the UK, moved to Scotland, and started running and owning a picture house there. So I went along to go check it out, see what life's like for her at the moment. We went on a drive the next day to see a bunch of castles, which was very fun. We saw Skipness Castle, which was very nice. You'll if I haven't gotten to this yet, I don't think I have. If I haven't gotten to this yet, I'll be putting videos and pictures and stuff of all of this up on my Instagram soon enough. The next couple of days, I'll have some time to catch up on Instagram, hopefully. A small town life, it means things close early, though. Yes, I would have to get used to that because living in a big city, nothing closes at 5 p.m. Everything's open till 10, 11, 12, or even 24 hours. Not a single thing closes at 5 p.m. in a big city. But in small towns, things probably do close. Small towns like, I don't know, like the capital of Australia, for instance. But like small town life, I would have to get used to things closing early for sure. Looking up capacity of wind farms, and everywhere seems to just quote megawatts, gigawatts with no time. Looking up the definition of a watt, and it already has a time component. I mean, a lot of physics have time components, but you need to, like, if you're talking about we are generating this many watts. So does let me look it up. It's been too long since I was at university and studying mathematics. The watt is a unit of power or radiant flux in the International System of Units equal to 1 joule per second. It is used to quantify the rate of energy transfer. The watt is named in honor of James Watt, blah, blah, blah. So 1 joule. A joule is the unit of energy. It's the amount of work done when force of a Newton displaces a mass through a meter in the direction of that force. Yeah, 1 Newton meter. A joule was 1 Newton meter, right? So 1 Newton meter. So watt is 1 Newton meter per second, I think, right? 1 Newton meter per second. So it creates 1 joule per second. So when they're saying we create 1 megawatt, they're saying 1 million watts per second. 1 million joules per second. They're creating 1 million joules per second. An object's velocity is held constant at a meter per second against the opposing force. The work done is 1 watt. A person having a mass of 100 kilograms who climbs a 3-meter high ladder in 5 seconds is doing work at a rate of about 600 watts. Mass times acceleration due to gravity times height divided by the time it takes to lift the object given height. Labor over the course of an 8-hour day can sustain an average output of about 75 watts. Okay. Right. Okay. So what is assumed to be like when something says watts, that is a unit of rate exchange, not a unit of energy. So what the sign should say is it produces however many megawatts it was, joules. So we create so many joules of energy per second. We create so many watts. Okay, yeah, I understand that now. So the sign wasn't wrong. I was wrong. Well, I wasn't wrong. I just didn't understand what a watt was clearly. What? So it still needed a rate of time for the amount of time it can sustain a house for, right? Because it says we produce so many watts, which is enough to run so many houses. But like how long is it also assuming like you can run that many houses for 1 second? Original Beetlejuice or sequel? The sequel. How was Beetlejuice? Yeah, it's alright. Riddled with plot holes really, but I didn't expect it of a thing like that. I had a ticket to tour the inside of a windmill, climb up and enjoy the view. From where I live, I can see plenty of windmills, including this one, but back then without GPS. Oh, we're talking about before internets or something. My friend's parents used to live in a converted windmill. She went abseiling to paint the outside. Oh, that sounds fun. Wasted rant energy. How much rant energy though? Was it not kilowatt hours? I don't remember. I'll rant about it when I see it when I put it on my YouTube, no doubt, my Instagram, no doubt. Seems like the sign could have had a bit more information as to how many people are going to know a watt is 1 joule per second. Yeah, I feel like if you're putting signs out to educate people on like, look how cool our things are, you need to put contextual information for people to understand. Assumes the rate of usage per house. So if they use X joules per second, it produces X joules per second. Yeah. Averaged over any period of time, that's how many houses it can reliably provide power to simultaneously. like for any given moment, our our wind farm is powering this many houses, which would be an easier way of getting the information across to noobs without jargon. You say, at any given second, our wind farm is producing enough energy to be powering so many houses. Oh yeah, in this present moment. In this moment, our wind farm is powering at least so many houses. On a windy day, it can actually be powering this many houses. You'd find the capacity in megawatts and then the produced energy in megawatt hours. The sign should have said something like, "Our windmills have an installed capacity of X till average wind speed to megawatts produced." Something like that. Sup, Adam? How's it going? Welcome in. My water comes up there, so maybe my power is too. Maybe. Anyway, we went around to Campbelltown, then we drove back to Yorkshire. Then what else have I done since then? Went to my brother's wedding. He got married. It was very fun. We went to the um middle of like a forest. It's the middle of a forest where he and his now wife had met about 7 years before at a party, and they were going to get married there as well, and it was all like Woodstock themed, like music festival themed, because my brothers, uh, well, they both are. They're both pretty big into music and older music especially. And so we turned up and had like custom wristbands, like festival wristbands that had their names on it and stuff. And we had uh, we had like little $5 notes that were the drinks tickets, the drinks vouchers. Um, and there was like a little campfire and live music, tiny little stage with live music bands and stuff. And it was all obviously laid out real nice with uh, like wood chip paths and all the rest of it through this little foresty area. It was very cute, very cool party. Got to see a whole bunch of people that I haven't met in forever, like my brother's friends and things. Um, got to spend all night running around chasing my nephews and niece who have infinite energy as children, obviously, and constantly want to play. Can you play? Can you play Jaguar or whatever? Because they were like pointing leaves at me and going, "Chicken, magic chicken," and then I'd become a chicken and chase them as a chicken, and then you're a panther, I'd be a panther and chase them. You're a cheetah, and then I'd put on speed and actually catch them. Be like, "Oh, wrong choice. Shouldn't have made me a cheetah. Now I can catch you." Uh, and then I'd obviously gobble them up and then put them back down, and they run off again. Ad infinitum throughout the entire evening until I was fucking exhausted and having to hide places. I would go towards them and they turn run away, and then I just immediately run the other way and hide behind a group of people until they can find me again. It sounds like a good workout. Yeah. Certainly cardio, that's for sure. So yeah, nice wedding. My brother included me in the ceremony. To my surprise, even included AJ in the ceremony to her surprise too. He had this like tying the knot part of the ceremony where the celebrant explained the process of where the phrase tying the knot comes from, and she got AJ to stand up and hold out seven ribbons of different colors, the colors of the rainbow, and then me, my other brother, my mum, my dad, and then Hannah's mum, dad, and brother. So everybody who was in their direct families, um, all came up one by one and grabbed um, one of the coloured ribbons in order of the rainbow, obviously that also represent the chakras or something, and they represent something else. There are a lot of things tied together. So the celebrant was like, and now, father of the groom will come up and take the red ribbon, which corresponds to the head chakra and is related to wealth and prosperity or whatever, and we'll wrap that around you. And so the bride and groom are holding hands like this, and you come up and you start the ribbon under one of their thumbs here, and you do two loops with like really big baggy sort of loops around them, and then you put it under their other person's thumb at the other side. And then the next person comes up. Now the brother of the groom will come up and grab the orange chakra, which represents happiness and blah blah blah, and corresponds to the scrotum chakra. And then little by little, you all wrap the ribbons around the arms, and then at the end they say a bunch of words. They grab the whole bundle of seven things each, and they pull them back through the big baggy loops, and literally tie the knots and tie the knot in all of the things, and it represents them tying their I don't know tying their somethings together. Um, yeah, it was pretty fun, pretty cute. They also got me to take the ring box. They put their rings inside of a little oak box, and as people are coming in and sitting down, I'm handing them the box to like give blessings to and like good vibes into and well wishes and things, and then passing it on. I'm there fucking eagle eyed watching. Nobody takes these rings. Nobody does anything weird with them. I give them to one guy who immediately starts turning them over. I think seven times. Um, and as he started doing that, it sort of rang a bell in my mind of like, oh, I have heard of this does ring a bell of like some culture where they do turn the rings over to lock in something. And I couldn't remember anything else about it. I was like, oh, I've read about that before. And I can't remember anything about it, just that I've read about the process of turning rings over. But obviously, the guy I handed them to was part of a culture that understood what the purpose of this whole ring warming thing was. Um, And AJ pointed out how funny it was that they got me to do that, the least spiritual minded of the entire family, the most cynical, skeptical asshole of the family, and I'm the one taking the rings around, blessing them and giving good vibes to them and stuff. Celebrant wedding is so much more personal than having a registrar. Shame it's not legal in England and Wales. You still got to go to a registry office for the legal bit, which is why they did that the week before. So the weekend before the big sort of wed stock they were calling it, we went to a different wedding, different actual wedding service at a registry office in York, and just got it all signed. They were officially married then, and then a week later they did the special day celebrant party part of it. I bet your brothers picked you special for that. Oh, I bet. I bet. They're like, let's make Rob do it. It's a very British sense of humor, yeah. Anyway, the wedding was very nice. Then and we were staying at like a really nice like huge Airbnb chalet thing, like this old wooden British house that had a suit of armor in the dining room, and it had two different sitting rooms, a library sort of sitting room and a lounge room, um, as well as a dining room and a breakfast dining room and another dining-ish room off of that breakfast dining room, and then six bedrooms, I think, three en suites, a mud room, all sorts of stuff. It was a big, nice building that we were all sort of staying in for the wedding. And AJ and I stayed an extra night there because we were flying out to Germany the next day. So the day after the wedding, we had one more day to sort of chill and say goodbye to people. I play tested a board game. So my brother, the one that was getting married, um, uh, I was around at his house and I saw his stack of board games as he's showing me around his house. Um, and I was like, "Oh, board games, what you got?" And he had a couple of Monopolies. I was like, "Boo!" And then Game of Life, I was like, "Boo! You need better board games." He had a couple of good ones like Jaipur, and he had one called The Good Life. And he goes, "Oh, I know you hate Monopoly. This one's kind of like Monopoly, but with the anti-capitalism kind of bent on it. It's like all about being self-sustainable. Like there's an old British TV show called The Good Life about it's like a sitcom, about a couple that I think the premise is they're like businessmen and they're like wealthy sort of rat racy kind of people, and then one day they realize this is not fun for us, and they give it all up to go and buy a house in the country and start living sustainably, and they try and use like chicken poop as fertilizer for their no, chicken poop as like fuel for their car or something, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. I never really watched it other than seeing parts of it well as my mum was watching it, but it's kind of based on that and living a sustainable life. So you start off, it just looks a lot like a Monopoly board, but um, and there's cards just like community chest and chance cards. But as you're moving your little wheelbarrow piece around the board, you have your little farm as well, and you're trying to get one of every crop, one of every animal, um, and you've got to buy a wind turbine and a greenhouse and all this other stuff. And eventually, and you're trading hay bales rather than money. Um, and he goes, you like it. And as we started playing it, I was like, damn, this is so lacking. This is so, like for a start, it's just roll and move, which is not fun game design. Things like snakes and ladders aren't fun because then they're entirely just luck based. It's just whatever you roll, that's where you land, and you do the thing that it says that you landed on, and that's your turn. And then when it comes back around to your turn, you roll and you do the thing where you land, and it's not fun. There's no strategy involved. There's no intrigue. There's no additional rules. There's no options for you. So it immediately started my creative brain going, and I was like, oh, I could homebrew a rule where this happens, or like, and there was also like no reason to having any of the particular, like every time you landed on a particular square, you got to choose one of the crops to plant. Oh, do I take potatoes? Do I take carrots? Do I take sweet corn, radishes, uh, raspberries, apples, pumpkins? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 9 different crop types, whatever the others were, and none of them had any mechanical difference. Like it didn't matter which ones you're taking. Boring. Then likewise, your when you built your windmill, your greenhouse, your beehive, there were 3 structures, and none of them had any mechanical difference. You just needed one of each to win the game, essentially. And then finally, you had animals. You had 3 pig pens. Each one could hold a maximum of 2 pigs, and you had 3 chicken coop. Each one could hold a maximum of 2 chickens. And that's it. The winner of the game is the first person to fill up all of their board, which is just capitalism. Like, if the goal is you gotta collect them all just arbitrarily for no reason, just to have them, you got to have them just to have them. It's not sustainability. That's not promoting sustainability. That's just capitalism without using money. Is capitalism using bartering and trade instead, using hay bales? But if your hay bales are your money, which is all they were using them for in the game, hay bales was exactly like money. They could have just used coin tokens instead of hay bale tokens, and it would have been exactly the same. At that point, it's capitalism. So I was like, I could do something so better with this game, and so I started doing so. My brother's birthday was the next day after we played this, and I was like, for his birthday, I'm going to rewrite the game rules to make them better. And because if he enjoys the game like that, he'll enjoy it a lot more if I actually make some of the things that he was complaining about better. Um, and so I ended up writing like a 6 7 page alternate rule set for the good life. And so the day after the wedding, AJ and I sat down and like play tested it, and I was like, okay, this needs to change, this needs to change, blah blah blah. And I'm very pleased with how it all turned out. I just need to type it up nice, and then I can send it to my brother and be like, try this version of the game. I think you'll enjoy it even better. My version actually has a sustainability winning condition built into it. If the aim of the game is claiming to be self, like try and make yourself sustainable, then A, you should start the game not, and B, when you become self-sustainable, you should win the game, regardless of how many crops and stuff you've got. So in my version of the game, each time you pass one of the corner squares, you have to pay fees if you're renting your farm still. You have to pay fees if you're still getting electricity from the grid. You have to pay fees if you have to feed yourself with eating or like consuming some of your own crops and animals. and you have to feed any animals that you've got. And if you can't do that, you need to buy them from the box. Essentially, you need to buy them from the banker of the game. Um, and the goal of the game in my version is uh, little by little, you're trying to buy the windmill so that you don't pay fees for the electricity grid anymore. You're trying to buy your land outright, so you're not paying rent on it anymore. You're trying to uh, grow enough crops to feed yourself and your animals without needing to buy the food. And once you have done that for an entire go around the board, you've proven yourself to be self-sustainable because you've not bought anything from the bank, and therefore that's when you win the game, regardless of how many crops you've got. So yeah, that's I should add in the windmill facts too. Yeah, an alchemy jog will be able to change it to a different liquid in a couple of hours, aka it's late. We used to play the board game Go for Broke, which is kind of anti-Monopoly, but don't think it's an actual better game than Monopoly. They don't move to the country. They set up a farm in their back garden in suburbia, and the up themselves neighbours aren't happy about it. That's right. I remember that. I remember there being like a really uppity neighbour that doesn't like the fact that they've got a farm next door now. I was invited to a Wiccan wedding once. They actually tie their wrists together, one each, and they have to navigate through the day and one night being tied together, intended as a honeymoon. Just like the three-legged race, but with wrists. They call games a chance, been popular for millennia. Yeah, with simple folk that don't have more complicated desires for what constitutes fun board games. Snakes and Ladders is one of the worst games in the world because there is nothing you can do to influence the outcome of the game. Have you ever played Arkham Horror? It's probably my favorite board game. I haven't. Should play Agricola instead. I don't know Agricola. I have heard of Agricola actually. Yeah, Google it. Agricola. Agricola. Oh, comes up with Wikipedia for Gnaeus Julius Agricola. Wikipedia. A Roman general and politician responsible for much of the Roman conquest of Britain. I don't think that that's what I should be playing. Agricola board game, there it is. Euro style board game created by Uwe Rosenberg. It's a worker placement game with a focus on resource management. I hate worker placements. In Agricola, players are farmers who sow and plough the fields, collect wood, build stables, buy animals, expand the farms, feed their families. After 14 rounds, they calculate their score based on size and prosperity of the household. I don't like worker placements. Never have. These are cute though. Little cow and pig and thing meeples. Differences in the revised edition. Multicolored wooden pieces of the same circular shape denote the various resources: clay, wood, reeds, etc. Have you played Plunder? And the Drift says, I have not. What is Plunder? I should just go to Board Game Geek rather than Wikipedia. Board Game Geek. Classic Rob making a whole new game. Yeah, can't help myself sometimes. Search. Plunder. Plunder a board game or a video game? Plunder. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. At least 15 different board games with Plunder either as the full title or as part of the title. Oh no, wait. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, continued below 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 55, 56. We're down to about where I'd end it there because those just getting into non-English words. So 55, 54. So there's about 54 different games that are called Plunder. So you're going to be more specific, it seems. When my game coming to Kickstarter, I mean, you joke, but after I'd put in that much work and played it, AJ, after the playtest, AJ was like, "This has got real legs. Like, you should, like, we could get rid of the board, the Monopoly style board, at which point it just becomes its own game, and you should probably actually make this as a board game, which I am very excited to do. So that is one of the things that I'm going to do as like a side project. When I need a break from my D&D-ish stuff, I'm going to start designing this as an actual board game. It'll be my little fun, changes as good as a rest kind of thing. I've always been fascinated by crop rotations. Haven't found a board game that uses this mechanic though. Yeah, I did start wondering about that as well because I also implemented in my version of the game like the crops matter because each of the sides of each of the four sides of the Monopoly style board game um, is one of the four seasons, which gives a reason to grow to eventually build your greenhouse because until you've got your greenhouse, you can only plant crops in one of the seasons, and you can only cultivate them in another season, and then you can only harvest them in another season. And if they're still around by the time you get to the winter, they all die or whatever. So, like in my game, you've got to be like, oh, and I've got to think about it because if I don't plant them now, then this and this and this. It was a whole thing. And then once you've got your greenhouse, you can plant, cultivate, and harvest them at any time. As a way of having that. You had preserving. I didn't. So my constriction, constriction. My constriction for myself was while I was redesigning the game, I had to use only the pieces that were given in the game box because I wanted to just make alternate rules for how to play this game rather than creating a new game from scratch, which I ended up also planning to do. But I first wanted to just make alternate rules for my brother to play this game and be like, here, if you want to. My constraint, thank you, that was the word I was like. Constriction doesn't feel right. The constraint for myself was it had to use um, only the pieces given, including just a single roll of the die as well. And so to remove the roll and move kind of aspect of the game, or to add a little bit of chance, a little bit of choice to your chance, a little bit of strategy, I also added in the mechanic that you can roll and then either move the number that you roll or roll again, and then you have to move the second number. So there's a bit of choice in there. In like, I really wanted to hit the third square, and I rolled a one. Do I just move one square and I haven't overshot it, and I can go again next turn, or do I roll again and risk overshooting it, or landing on this other square that I really don't want to? And you've got some choice in your roll and move at least. I think even just the simplest of game design changes like that would make Snakes and Ladders more fun to play. Like you've got a choice of like you're going to roll this number or you're going to roll this other number. I'm going to roll this other number and risk landing on that snake in favor of potentially getting another chance to land on that ladder that I wanted. Feeling ready to head home yet? Been out for a long time now. I have been out for a long time now, but being back in Winter's Tales, back in Perth with Winter's Tales Studio and AJ's house, like I feel like I'm more at home already. I don't feel like I'm traveling because I've time here to settle in. Like when I arrived, I could actually unpack all of my suitcase and like put all of my stuff into those drawers and wardrobes and stuff. And feel like I was more at home again. So it feels like a break from the travel at the very least, even if I'm not in my own house. Which plunder were we talking about? Get local places first. We've got an Agricola Street, and then the board game, and then the room. Most recently been having fun with the board game Splendor. I do like Splendor. Splendor's an engine builder type game, and I enjoy engine builders, but I'm never good at them. By the time my engine starts working in an engine builder, somebody's won. I'm always like 3 rounds behind everybody else, and so, or at least 3 rounds behind the guy who wins. Especially with Splendor, I've got a guy in mind that I always used to play it with at the board game cafe, Cakes and Ladders, and he would always just waste everybody else at Splendor somehow. I'd be like, okay, if I can get this contest or whatever, then she gives me a free diamond every start of the turn. And if I can collect 3 diamonds, then I can buy this other card that I've got my eye on, which gives me 2 emeralds and a whatever at the cost of a diamond. I can exchange a diamond for two of whatever emerald I want in Splendor. That's good. So she, combined with that other card, will. But I'll need 3 diamonds in order to do it. So it'll go 3 rounds and eventually, right, I've got that card. Haha, now my engine's about to start because she's giving me a diamond every round, which I can turn into 2 emeralds, and with those 2 emeralds I can buy this other thing. And then 1 round later she gives me a diamond, I change it for this thing. I'm like, ah, here we go. Oh, you won? Fuck. Oh man. Another 4 rounds and I would have I would have been wasting you all. But I still enjoy them. I still have fun with engine builders, even though I'm not great at them. Deck builders I really love as well. Or deck builder type games like the Quicks of Wetlenberg or whatever it's called, where you've got like a bag of tokens and you keep buying more to add to the tokens and drawing them out at random. That's fun. But for some reason, worker placements, I've tried them in a lot of different formats, and I just don't like them. The closest I've come to enjoying a worker placement game is the what is it called? It's a Dungeons and Dragons themed one with the Underdark and Drow cities. You're placing workers around Drow cities essentially. Um, I don't mind worker placements where there's not a limited number of places for your workers to go, so that if you place a thing in your work, yeah, actually, I don't mind. I don't know if that's a different genre of game, but worker placements where if I go for wood this turn, it doesn't restrict you also going for wood this turn. Like individual worker placements where maybe you've got your own board and it's like I'm going to place my worker here to get the wood this turn, and it doesn't be then I don't get like, oh fuck, I needed wood this turn, but you've taken the spot because you happened to go before me in the initiative order. Um, I don't like those ones. Plunder board game, A Pirate's Life. All right, let me look. A Pirate's Life. There it is. Plunder, A Pirate's Life from 2020. Captains clash over territory and treasure to help expand and improve their fleets. It's a 6.8, which is not bad. It's pretty easy to pick up by the looks of it, only a 1.8 complexity rating. It's quite a long game though. 2 hours, it says. Up to 2 hours. What is this one? Oh, it looks fun. A little fun board though, like with your ships moving around the board. I've never seen this. I don't know what this little square is that you can put around your ships, and this little clock. There's a little spinny wheel with 18 on it, or the letters A to L. Bunch of cards. Looks like there's a lot of involved pieces in it, but it would look like it would be fun. Sounds like you just want agency in games. Yeah. Like if I win a game, I want it to be like I had something to do with that. I prefer games that I don't mind some random chance in games because it helps to make it more fun for people. It levels the playing field a little bit with like this guy's clearly better than me at this game, but I could beat him just because of the RNG of the dice rolls and stuff, like D&D. But chess is way down one end of the scale where there is no element of luck involved. It's just skill. It's just down to everything you do is your choice. Um, and then Snakes and Ladders is down the other end where there is zero skill involved and it's just entirely down to luck. And I much prefer it to be on that end of the scale. I enjoy chess, but I do prefer there to be a little bit of random, like backgammon. Backgammon's fantastic. Backgammon is the right level of balance for me and my enjoyment of games because a lot of backgammon is about skill, but there is some luck involved in like what dice you are rolling. But because there's two dice involved, you can somewhat predict certain elements of what you will be rolling because there's more of a bell curve of the numbers that you can roll and stuff. So I'm like, okay, there's elements of random chance to kind of mix it up, but I do think backgammon is much more my sort of game. I think it's probably why I introduced hero points to my games as well, because hero points allows for D&D to be shifted a little bit more to the skill side of things than the random chance and luck side of things. And if you've been watching the Ryoko's Guide mini-series, you know how badly my random chance is sometimes when I'm trying to do something really cool and it just doesn't work out because I roll a two. You add seasons and make sure you have enough crops for winter, etc. Yeah, exactly. Snakes and Ladders is a great game, good for learning maths and learning how to win loose graciously for kids, not so much for adults. Yeah, for kids, I could see Snakes and Ladders being useful for teaching kids that like sometimes there's nothing you can do and like it was just the luck of the draw that you happened to win or you happened to lose and there's nothing that makes him better than you just because he won. Um, and such is the same in life. Some people are born with more privilege, which gives them a hand up in life, and some people squander that, and some people make the most of it. Um, but I still don't think I'd want my kids like playing it over and over and over again. And like, I don't want to teach them that there is any because here's the thing about human psychology: we do put aspects of skill into things that don't have them. We do, like, if we win, we attribute it to our own skill. Same with like fucking people like Donald Trump who go, "Oh, I've got myself to where I am purely off my own skill, my own abilities." Elon Musk, I'm one of the smartest guys in the world. I deserve to have 90% of the world's wealth. I deserve to be where I am today because, I've got all of this skill. Not because my daddy owned a fucking blood diamond mine or whatever, or because I got a small loan of $1 million. Or like there was there was a psychological study done where they did make people play Monopoly. They made people play Monopoly, but they changed the rules so that at the random roll of a dice, you are chosen to be either wealthy or poor at the beginning of the game. And if you're wealthy, you started with, I forget the details, but it doesn't matter. Like you started with way more money than the poor person, and you started with like three properties already. Uh, and so luck was entire like this um the balance was entirely in your favor. And due to the way that Monopoly is designed as like a snowballing effect, one of the reasons I don't like it as a board game, it's a bad design. It's a snowballing effect. The winners win faster, the losers get more losery, which is why it was designed that way, to try and kind of like be a mockery of how capitalism doesn't work as a society and all that shit. Because the poor get poorer and the rich get richer, and that's not conducive to a good society. And the whole board game was designed to emulate that, and then somehow took off as a staple of board games everywhere, which is fucking irritating. But in this psychological study they did, they asked the winner, which was almost inevitably the person who started out with more privilege at the start of the game. They happened to be starting with way more money and properties. They asked the winner why they won, and more often than not, people would answer things like, "Oh, I had better strategy in place for this or that," or like, I utilized my resources to a better extent, yada yada yada." And very few of them were like, "Of course I won. I was born into privilege essentially. Like I had it all handed to me at the start of the game. Of course I won." And it's unfortunately the way that things go. And I would be loath to let my kids just play an entirely or mostly chance game and then start to teach themselves that, oh, I'm better at snakes and ladders than you are. I'm better at this than you are because of my skill. I'm smarter than you because I keep winning. Like, no, you just had a random lucky streak of like 5 games in a row where you won. I prefer my kids playing something like Ludo, which has a huge, like Ludo is the opposite of backgammon, where it's mostly luck still. There is an element of skill. Like Ludo is the one, or sorry, I think people call it in some parts of the world, where you just like click a dice roller in the center and it goes, and you get a six, and then you can move one of your four pieces 6 spaces. But there is definitely element of skill involved in that. I'd say Ludo's about maybe half and half. How to lose games and win friends is a lesson title that my wife gets to do quite a bit with the children and with developmental challenges. Nice. I want to try diplomacy someday, but I don't want to end ending friendships. If you come back to Canada within reasonable distance of me, I'll teach you plunder if you haven't learned it by now. Thanks. Don't know if many children learned this on their own or if parents explained it to them. I play color shape bingo with the 4-year-old. You have 2 dice with one with shapes, one with colors. You need to get 4 in a row. All chance, really. But you learn colors and shapes. Yeah, dice like things that have no skill involved but are entirely about educating. Fine, I get that. I get the need for those games to exist. But 2 dice, one with shapes and one with colors. You need to get 4 in a row. How do you get? What do you get 4 in a row? You roll both dice, and then you roll both dice again, and you have to get specific shapes. I don't fully understand what you mean there. I really enjoy Gloomhaven. I think the leveling up aspect kind of triggers my liking of video games. Yeah, I liked Gloomhaven. The very few times I've played it. Like how Monopoly was created to teach how capitalism is evil, and then people just took it to learn it as a way of saying, "Hey, look how awesome it is to be rich and own everything." Yeah, it's somewhat ironic that Monopoly almost has a monopoly on fucking board games for intro to board game people. For regular families that aren't like big into board games, you ask them to name a board game, Monopoly would be top spot. Like Family Feud situation, we asked 1,000 people to name a board game. It'd be Monopoly, Monopoly, Scrabble, chess. Well, I think a lot of people would be like, "Is chess a board game?" It'd be like Monopoly, Scrabble. Uh, what other board games would people say? You reckon? Catan, maybe. Speaking of which, I bought my nephew a bunch of board games while I was over there. I was like, I can't have this kid growing up loving Monopoly because he fucking does. He fucking loves Monopoly. It's his favorite game, and they've got like 4 or 5 different versions of it, and I hate it. Game of Life, yeah, that's another one that's terrible. Anyway, um, he's 9 years old and fucking loves Monopoly, and I'm like, I can't do what I do for a living and have my nephew loving Monopoly. I've got to teach him why this is a bad game. And so I took him to a board game shop and I bought him Ticket to Ride. I bought him Catan. I bought him a couple of board games of his choice. Like he saw some on the shelf that he liked the look of, and I saw that they were appropriate for kids and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll buy those too. Um, and then I bought him the Monster Manual and a bunch of dice and the Essentials kit for Dungeons and Dragons. I spent like £250 on like buying board games and stuff because I was like, hey, I've got 9 years of birthdays and Christmases to essentially catch up on. Um, and I took it all home and I was like, right, let me teach you this. And I taught him Dungeons and Dragons, made a character with him and everything. And then on the last night before I left, I broke out Ticket to Ride and taught him that as well. And he seemed to really enjoy it. And at the end, he's like, still like Monopoly better. I was like, yep, for now, all in good time. It's one of the main reasons I want to go back to the UK within a year. I want to be like, I'm coming back next year. I'm gonna keep this education going. So I gotta teach you better board games. That's why I buy my nephew's cooperative games. Nice. I once played Monopoly with the explicit goal: none of us are allowed to quit. Like we have to go through until one of us actually is like until all of us are bankrupt, until all but one, obviously, until somebody genuinely wins within the rules of the game. We have to keep playing, and it is such a fucking drag. I think the only reason I did that was like I don't think I've ever finished a game of Monopoly the way that it's meant to be finished. And so we were all curious and we were like, all right, let's go. And we were up until like 5, 6 in the morning or something, just playing this game. It kept going and kept going and kept going. And it was obvious from about 4 hours before that who was going to win because obviously they had all of the money and properties. But everybody else just happened to keep landing on chance. It's your birthday. Collect £20 from everybody in everybody else in the game. Fuck. All right, I'll take £20. I've not technically bankrupt yet. You've landed on Mayfair and you need to pay £3,000 in rent. Okay, great. Well, I don't have the money. Am I bankrupt? No, Monopoly does say that if you don't have the money, you do have to mortgage the. Can I not just give you one of my properties instead? No, the rules is written. You're not actually allowed to just pay off things with mortgage. Blah blah. That's how everybody plays it. Yeah, I know that's how everybody plays it, but I want to see how long a game takes if you play it the way that it's meant to be played. Fucking hell! All right. So I'm gonna mortgage this amount and this amount, and then get this amount of money. Blah blah blah. Just keeps going and going and going. £250 definitely my favorite uncle now. Yeah. Does he have Labyrinth? He doesn't. It's not yet. £250, the things I could add to my collection. Well, all you need to do is be my 9-year-old nephew. My best friend's 9-year-old daughter wants to learn how to play D&D, and so they've asked me to DM for her. I'm looking forward to it. Nice. My parents banned Monopoly for me and my cousins growing up. Too many arguments and no one auctions. Yeah, to be fair, there are a lot of ways that are commonly played with Monopoly that actually make the game worse. Like the free parking rule, taking a bunch of money from free parking, that's bullshit. Like, don't do that. That prolongs the game. And auctioning if you don't want to buy the thing. That's a way to speed things up. Properties are meant to be, and then like not being able to buy properties on your first turn round the board. That was something I'd played a lot growing up, and I was like, that's not a rule. Most of the Monopoly I played as a kid ended with the board flipped and the screaming got too loud. Yeah, yeah, that's how Monopoly usually ends. And somehow it's still the board game that everybody fucking turns to. It's got hundreds, if not thousands, of editions. While I was in the game store buying my nephew all these games, he picked up Monopoly Leeds edition, and he's like, "Can you take a photo of me with this, Uncle Rob, so I can add it to my Christmas wish list?" I was like, "You don't know how much you just hurt me, but yes, I will." And I took a photo of him, and then as he put it back on the shelf, I noticed the one below it on the shelf below was Monopoly Dungeons and Dragons edition. I was like, "Fuck you, stay out of my fucking industry." Monopoly was more fun when we played with the rules of if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. Steal money, sorted. Go an extra space and not get spotted. Great. Added a bunch of skill to it. Yeah, there and then Monopoly monopolized that as well. Like they actually made rules for it and came out with Monopoly Cheaters Edition, right? Where they've got a bunch. Like I never looked into it because by that point I'd already written off Monopoly, but there is a version of Monopoly that is designed for cheating, and it says in the rules like these are the things you're allowed to do, these are the things you should do, these are the things if you get caught doing this, this is what happens, blah blah blah. I think Monopoly Cheaters Edition actually came with handcuffs as well, like little those cheap $2 handcuffs or whatever, with the uh, little lever on the side that can undo them. Um, and those I think part of the Monopoly cheat, if you get caught, you have to lock yourself to the board. I think the board's got like a little ring or something. You click it on, and you have to be in jail. But part of cheating is like if you can subtly take them off without anybody noticing, you can keep going with your turns. Something like that. You do the options if people didn't went by where it landed. Yeah, Monopoly can be interesting for revealing people's true personalities. Does someone give money so that another person can continue playing? Which is I can never remember the word for it. There's a word that English doesn't have, but they've borrowed from, I think, Japanese. Word for trying to help and making it worse. Is it German? Verschlimmbesserung. Verschlimmbesserung. An attempt to improve something that makes it worse. Like Schadenfreude. We don't have that word, but we stole it from German. In Verschlimmbesserung, you've got like if you give somebody money to be like, oh, keep playing, here's some money. You're just prolonging the torture of everybody. Just let them go. Well, you're out. You're bankrupt, which means that the game's going to move faster, and within a couple of rounds, everybody else is going to be bankrupt and out of the game as well. Or you just introduce a house rule that's like the first time that somebody goes bankrupt, everybody gets one more go around the board, and who's richest at the end of that round wins so that the other person isn't sitting out. Or you introduce a house rule of like when somebody suggests Monopoly, you slap them in the face and you get a better game. That's my house rule for Monopoly. I once made a game for groups of children, saying that the ranking would be done by adding only the first three scores of each group. This way, the worst ones aren't rejected from the groups, since their score will not count, and everybody is happy. Those who want the competition and those who don't. Nice. See you later, Amber. May have been one advantage growing up in East Germany. Monopoly was not as present when I was a kid. Fair enough. Part of his business development class, my son had to make a board game, print it out, price it out, pitch it, market it, etc. All the kids absolutely loved it. I was like, that teacher loves board games. Yeah, I bet that teacher's about to steal all those kids' ideas. Bet the teacher didn't sign a fucking NDA for not stealing kids' IP and is now going to become a board game designer. Bet that teacher's a smart guy. Idiom is l'enfer est pavé de bons intentions. So something is with good intentions. All the house rules are just this game sucks. Hurry up and finish. Yeah. If he has access to a computer and Discord, there are many co-op games that are fun to play with that age, like Valheim. Does he have card games like Uno? I don't know that he does. I think one of the games that I bought him was a card game that was, what was it called? Something that rhymed, and there was a Christmas version of it in the board game shop that was Santa something, something that rhymed. I didn't understand the game. He was like, "Oh, look, this is a fun one," and he showed me it, and I looked at the back, and I was like, "I don't I don't get just from reading the back of the box what this is or how to use it, how to make it work." But sure, you seem excited by it, so you can have it. It's only $20, like £20. Uno's amazing. Played that way more than Monopoly. Yeah, at least there's some skill and choice to it, and it doesn't take nearly as long. We had to do Goldfields board games as an assignment in year five. What are Goldfields board games? Verschlimmbesserung. 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 Well-intended idiot. Efforts backfired. More of a hindrance than a help. Means well. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. No good deed goes unpunished. There's a lot of similar things. Trying to put out fires with gasoline. There's lots of like full phrases for it in English, but no like single word. The Cobra effect. Anyway, rabbit hole of that. What's your favourite board game? Board games based on the history of the gold fields in Australia. Okay. Like gold mining? I don't know anything about the history of gold fields in Australia. What's my favourite board game? Okay. So I'm going to exclude card games, presumably, and just straight up dice games. I don't think I've got a favourite. Just because I talked about it earlier and I played it a few months back, so it's a little more fresher in my mind. I really enjoyed the Quacks of, I don't even remember the name of it, Quacks of Quedlinburg or something. Where did Board Game Geek go? Here it is. Quacks of Quedlinburg. Quacks of Quedlinburg. Um, why is that not coming up properly? This is an expansion to it. Quacks of Quedlinburg. There it is. The Quacks of Quedlinburg. It's from 2018. You've got a little You've got a little. In fact, I can go over here. Can I undo this? Is this going to show up? It's not. Not unless I do this with it. Quacks of Quedlinburg. Quacks Quedlinburg. It's a game with a bunch of different ingredients, like potion ingredients, pumpkin and mushrooms and raven skulls and all sorts of stuff. Um, and you've got like a little cauldron pot with spiraling numbers from the middle that just count upwards essentially. Uh, and as you're as you're starting out, you've got let's see if I can find them. As you're starting out, you've got a bunch of white tokens you can kind of see here that are just what do they call them? Cherry bombs. One, two, three. So you start out with a little pouch, little bag like this, and you start out with a bunch of cherry bombs and like maybe a couple of these. I can't fully remember. Um, and then where's the board gone? There it is. You start out by drawing them from the bag and placing them on the zero, and then the one, and then the two, and so on. Uh, if you ever get to your white tokens, those little cherry bombs that you start with, if you ever get to 7 or more, I think it is, uh, your potion explodes and you get no points for that round. So it's like a push your luck kind of a game. You can do you can do a little bit of there's luck involved, but there's also a little bit of strategy of like, do I put my luck one more? Like given the rate of how many pieces I've got in this bag, I know that if I draw my white three, I'm fucked. But that is the only token in the bag that could fuck me, and you put your hand in. There's 7 tokens in here, so I've got a 1 in 7 chance that I'm fucked. So I'm gonna push my luck. Oop. Okay, I got my mushroom, so I'm gonna keep going, or I'm gonna stop there because now I've got a 1 in 6 chance of getting fucked. And wherever you stop, you get that many points. So like 6 points or whatever. If you don't explode, you get that many points, and you can then spend those points to buy more tokens from. Let's see, I think the yellow one was before, wasn't it? Let me jump back. Yeah. So, for instance, you could spend 8 points to get a 1 token of the Mandrake, and you can take if you've got 8 points, you're like, I'm going to spend all 8 points buying a number 1 token of a Mandrake, and you put the Mandrake in your bag, and now you've added to your bag. You've got more chips, which means less chance that your whites are going to explode. Not only that, though, but every time you draw that Mandrake out before your potion explodes, your first placed yellow chip is moved an extra 1 space, and the second an extra 2 spaces. Blah blah blah. So when you draw out the yellow chip, instead of placing it like let's say you were up to 7, and then you draw out the Mandrake, instead of placing it on 8, you place it on 9. That's pretty useful because you're getting further and further around, and you're getting more points at the end of your potion, and you're going around several rounds of this. So it's basically a deck builder, but with a bag of tokens. So that's a very fun one that I like. Eureka Stockade was a whole thing. The Gold Rush built Melbourne and Adelaide. Nice. What's your Desert Island board games? I mean, ironically, um, I guess I'd have to if like, am I stranded on a desert island with a bunch of people? Because if I'm not, then I'd have to pick some solo games. Um, but there is a game that's called Forbidden Desert. Have you seen Forbidden Desert? That's a pretty fun game. It's a you versus the game kind of game. Um, I'm completely losing track of time, by the way. What time am I meant to be wrapping this up? I've got other stuff to do today. I've got a little bit of time, but I probably should start wrapping. Um, Forbidden Desert is a 7.1 out of 10 on Board Game Geek, which is pretty good. It's only got a 2 complexity, it's not that bad. And it's a complex, a cooperative game where you're trying to survive a desert sun beating down on you while trying to find all of the lost parts, components to your escape ship. You've like crash landed in a desert, and your engine parts have gone exploding over the desert and got hidden under some desert sands and stuff, and you've got to split up and go and try and find them, sandblast and chug away sand. But every time the board is like turning cards over, and oh shit, more sand gets added to the board, or the wind blows down, and so like the sands are shifting, and so the sands your boards you'd explored are starting to move around and get sand on them, and then oh, sun beats down. Oh shit! Everybody loses 1 water. You're almost dehydrated. I probably wouldn't want that on a desert island because that would make me feel pretty upset with my current circumstances. I'm sure. So excited for PAX soon. Love playing all the new indie games. Hope they have more this year. Yeah, PAX is gonna be fun. Play a lot of at-home escape rooms. I've played a few of those, and not like not ones that I've been good at. Apparently, I think I overthink things. Likewise in real world escape rooms as well. Tend to overthink them. Favorite NPC from the VLDL AOA campaign? Yeah, not really. All of them are fun in their own ways. I really like King Conrad, of course. Wither was a lot of fun. Yaris Goldhorn, pretty fun. The Pearl, the lady from the mask shop, she was fun. Gareth Digby is a lot of fun. Leothil was fun. I shall be in bed for the entirety of PAX. Why are you in bed for the entirety of PAX? Mm, 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 mm. Um. Anyway, I was going through my what I've been doing since the last time we talked, and I got as far as playtesting The Better Life, which was my version of The Good Life. Then I played D&D with my nephew one last time. Forced him into the DM seat, and he was terrible at it. Um, but I expected him to be. Went out to a pub with my brother one last time and played some darts and did some pub quiz and stuff and uh, pub quiz and bingo. Won the bingo. Won a whole £15, which is what it costs to buy more tickets to the bingo. So just put that money straight back into the next round of bingo. Um, then drove down to Heathrow and flew to Berlin. And then we did two private sanctums back to back in Berlin. It was very nice, but didn't give us any other time to actually enjoy Berlin as tourists, which is fine because I've been to Berlin a couple of times anyway. Um, Took a train to Braunschweig, enjoyed Braunschweig for a couple of days, and it was very lovely. Didn't understand a word that AJ's grandparents were saying, obviously in German, but I did manage to get Google Translate app and just put it on the table and listen to conversations. I was able to track most of what was being said secondhand. Um, and it was fun regardless. Went to a lovely little, not little, lovely fucking huge church in Braunschweig. There was nobody was there, and we just walked in and walked around the place, enjoyed the whole thing. Very echoey. You'll see all of this in my Instagram stories soon enough. Then went to a tiny house in Frankfurt, and turned out to be arriving in Berdingen. Berdingen was it? Bundingen? I can't remember the name of the place where it was. Berdingen, yeah, Berdingen. We went to Berdingen just about an hour outside of Frankfurt to Schloss Berdingen, the castle there. And there happened to be like a festival happening that weekend as well. And so we got to enjoy this lovely festival in this lovely, quaint, like castle town with castle walls and everything. And really, all of the buildings just not aligned because they're so old. They've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so they've got all this history. It was very nice. Um, Ran a couple of private sanctum games that went really well as well inside of a castle, which is really cool. And then we flew to Hong Kong, had 7 hours to wait in Hong Kong. Thankfully, with all of the flying we've been doing, we've both been upgraded to like silver or gold flyers with Qantas now, because we've made sure to do all of the flying with One World, which means you get points through Qantas because they're part of One World, even if you're not flying with Qantas. So it meant that we got to actually like priority boarding and got to use the proper lounges with the free food and places to sleep, which was very nice. All this flying around, jet setting has its perks. And then we arrived in Perth, and that's pretty much it. You're up to date. I started editing my Halloween one shot that ran for board last year. Started editing the rules of that so that I can give it to the Viva guys and they can publish it properly so that this year people can actually run it themselves if they want to. I also uh, started doing some recording. Played some Stardew for the first time in forever. Lots of general catch-up jobs of like catching up on emails and things that I've been falling behind on while traveling, and thinking about Halloween Twitch Tales because that's coming up in a month. Obviously, we'll be doing the one-off special Halloween. Um, and I started a document with all of the different all of the different horror tropes on it. Let me show you it. um, Twitch Tales Halloween Ideas. That's what I call it. Let me take this over here and let's go to sharing. You're seeing over to the Halloween Ideas. There you go, look. Can you give a couple of tips for first time DM right now first one shot? I mean that's a bit too vague for me to give you anything of use. I don't know anything about your players or the style of gaming or what what your experience is. Just have fun with it. Remember that there's no pressure on you. You're just having fun. Don't try and steamroll it. All the usual advice, I don't know. Did you go with jet lag this time around with so many time zones? Mostly fine. When I've arrived in Perth, I think that it's hit me a little bit harder. Like I've been finding it really hard to get up in the mornings and quite hard to go to sleep until like early hours of the morning. Last couple of nights, I haven't been able to sleep till like 2 or 3 or even later in the morning, and then waking up around, well, waking up about 9 because I had things to do, and then going back to sleep and not getting out of bed till about midday. But yes, Twitch Tales Halloween this year. I went through. I started searching like what are some of the genres of horror, and I started putting them all together. And slasher, and I read through like the Wikipedia article of what constitutes a slasher film, and I was like, that's pretty much what I did in 2012 with the Werewolf Halloween special. If you haven't seen it, I won't spoil anything, but basically you're being chased through a forest by a werewolf, and it was very slasher esque. Um, Survival horror. It's more of a gaming thing than a gaming thing than a movie trope. But that's fine because D and D's a game, obviously. But survival horror is basically Resident Evil. Like you're less focused on combat and more focused on combat and more focused on surviving and running and hiding and solving puzzles and escaping and like managing your managing your resources and your inventory and stuff. So I started getting ideas. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do survival. And then body horror is like Cronenberg shit. Um, Cronenberg with uh, grotesque and psychologically disturbing violations of the human body. There's lots of things I could do with that in D&D, and with the descriptions of how I like to do things. You know how it'll go. 28 days. 28 days later, yeah. That's a zombie one, right? Is that survival? I'm not sure. I'm not into horror films. Surprisingly, I really enjoy telling horror stories, but I don't enjoy watching them at all. So body horror is something I can definitely do in D&D with the number of monsters and spells and stuff that can force you to change your shape into something else. You could be forcibly polymorphed into something, or like the Baldur's Gate. Like when I started thinking about body horror, I was like, oh, I could do the ceramorphosis with the illithids and the tadpole in the eye that turns you into one of them. And I was like, wait a minute, that's the entire plot of Baldur's Gate 3. Let's not do that. But there's plenty others that I could do. Folk horror is more about folklore of fear and foreboding. It's all about tying into superstition and such. Usually a rural setting, isolation, themes of superstition, folk religion, paganism, sacrifice, dark aspects of nature. So I could do something with that. That'd be a little bit more challenging for me to think through, like what is folk horror and how does it actually work? Something to do with witches, perhaps, or something to do with just a rural town that's paranoid, like really playing into paranoia. I don't know. Kind of felt like there was elements of that with last year's though, with the night hag and the paranoia elements. So I'm not sure exactly that would be fully new. Typical monster movie, super easy to do in D&D, obviously, but like Godzilla was originally a monster movie. But even things like, to an extent, like The Invisible Man and The Mummy and the werewolf movies and stuff, those are like just the world against a monster. It would be easy enough to do, but wouldn't feel very horror-y because it's just typical D&D to just have a monster that you have to slay. And as soon as the monster has stats, it can be killed, and it's less scary. So maybe not. Psychological horror. That is that is pretty much what I feel like I was doing last year with the Night Hag Halloween special. Particular focus on mental, emotional, psychological states to frighten and disturb and unsettle the audience. That's what I was focusing on last year. Mystery elements and characters with unstable, unreliable, and disturbed psychological states to enhance the suspense. Unreliable narrators, themes of suspicion and distrust. This was all stuff that I was leaning heavily into last year. Unreliable narrators, not knowing if they're actually going crazy or if they're being gaslighted. Gaslit? Maybe a really happy episode with lots of agency where things go well and there's a happy ending. I don't think you understand the nature of the Halloween specials. Would it be possible for you to share your prep notes for a session? Could be any session, from one shot, or home game, or old game, but I'm thinking about how to optimize prep work and would. Do you only do D&D type stuff, or do you ever do stuff like Call of Cthulhu? My friends and I don't only do D&D, which is why I call myself Robert Hartley GM, not DM. I do role-playing games of all kinds. and would really appreciate an insight into how you do prep for your sessions. I don't feel comfortable sharing my prep notes now because I'm like, these were only I wrote these with a design with an intention of me being the only person to see them. But maybe one day I'll do a stream where I just like walk people through my prep notes, um, and say like, oh, this is how I came up with this. Last year's Halloween special watchable somewhere. It is soon. It is on my Patreon already. I uploaded it yesterday and scheduled it to come out early October. So if you're a Patreon, which you are because you're watching a Patreon exclusive charisma check, you'll get the Halloween special coming out soon. And then if you miss it on Patreon, it'll hit YouTube right before Halloween this year. Supernatural element. I wasn't sure exactly what the 2021 Twitch Tales was about the crypt. It kind of I wasn't thinking about them in terms of horror genre when I did it. It was the first one that I did, so I was just kind of like throwing out anything that I felt was scary. So I had elements of psychological body horror, all sorts of stuff in that crypt one. There was definitely some Cronenbergy shit when I don't want to spoil it in case you haven't seen it, but like towards the end, there's something happens that's like body dysmorphin kind of stuff. Um, so there's definitely elements of a lot of things, but when reading through it, I was like, oh, uh, I feel like Supernatural was pretty like there was some other shit going on with that particular one, so could still do some more Supernatural if I wanted. Gothic horror, classic vampires, essentially like haunted house. That would be a nice, easy one to do as a Twitch Tales Halloween. Like you're basically like Rocky, like Rocky Horror Picture Show or something. You start out, your wagon breaks an axle and your horse is spooked, and you're like, "Fuck, it's pissing down with rain." And there's a house up ahead. Okay, I'm gonna trudge up to this house and ask if they can help me fix my axle so I can be on the road again. Lightning storm starts. You open up the door. Excuse me, hello, anyone home? I'm sorry to bother you, but my horse is spooked and run off into your woods, and I've broken an axle. Is anyone to? Door closes behind you, and some Igor type enters and says, "Ah, the master's been expecting you." What? What? Who? Sorry, I was here to. What? What's going on? And then you're at a gothic horror house with Frankenstein or Dracula or something. So that would be a nice, easy one to come up with if needed. Undead Horde, the zombie horror. The zombie horror of the sort of trope of the undead horde. Nice and simple to do, easy to blend into actual Twitch Tale lore as well, with a lot of undead things happening regarding Apis' story and the undead, the demon lord of undeath. There's a lot of necromancy has ended up coming up in several private sanctum games this year, and so coming up like tying the undead into that could be interesting. Like a post-apocalyptic, you're held up in a house, a necromancer's house, and suddenly it's just the undead are just coming out. Hundreds and hundreds of these things could be fun, but a little just okay. Cool. That's what we would do in a regular D&D game anyway, I guess. Lots of pits, yeah. Sorry if this doesn't fit here, but I wanted to politely ask if I could post the selfies we took at RPS in the matching Discord. You absolutely can, Jack. Yes, I'm fine with that. Thank you for asking. Lovecraftian horror. This one is, I mean, it's the only one that's named after a particular writer. So it's amazing that Lovecraft just pretty much iconized his own type of genre altogether. Quite easy to do in D&D with regards to like the Far Realm. All of the aberrations are designed right from right from the Wizards of the Coast team already. The Far Realm creatures, the aberrations. There's an entire type of creature that is Lovecraftian. Beholders, aboleths, illithids, flumphs, uh, chul. All of these are aberrants that are basically Cthulhu. And then you've got your warlocks that are the Great Old One warlocks, which are obviously designed around Cthulhu-ish and Lovecraftian stuff too. So all you'd need to do with that is like some sort of cultish thing. One where they end up at a gothic haunted house. I want to play ask if you could post. Oh, if you could post the selfies. Yes, I will. I will be posting my selfies to the Discord soon. I have been not having much time to catch up with that sort of thing, but I haven't forgotten. It's just that I haven't gotten to it yet. It's on my list of things to do. Nature Strikes Back was an interesting one when I was googling it, like the different types of horror that there is. Subgenre that involves nature striking back. So Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds or Arachnophobia, or like vines twisting and strangling you and stuff. Anything where nature itself is starting to take over. Uh, could be interesting. I think as a horror film, it might be a big no for some people because of I've been seeing interesting trends. I'm going to do some graphs on it. I'm sure once I'm done with them all. But the consent forms that I send out to all my players, all my private sanctum players and stuff, there's been interesting trends in what people are not okay with exploring in a D&D game and what people are okay with exploring in a D&D game. And I think, without having actually done the analysis on it yet, I think I'd be willing to say that the most commonly hardlined thing on my entire list is harm to animals, over genocide, sexual assault, slavery, racism, anything else. But the majority of games have returned the form saying, I don't want to explore harm to animals, even as like a prompt for like bad guys kicking the dog, so that you know that oh, that's a bad guy. And so doing an entire horror one shot for Twitch Tales where it's like birds are attacking you and you've got to defend yourself against the birds, people might not be okay with that sort of thing. So I think it'll be pretty far down the list probably. Um, and then the final category that I found online that was like different enough to for me to feel like it needed including on the list was just splatter movies, which are just focused on gore and blood and guts and all that shit. Um, given the consent forms from most of my players in the private sanctums, um, not a lot. Like some people came back saying like I don't want you to go into too much detail with gore, but most people were fine with it, just being like, yeah, go into as much visceral detail as you want. And for a horror film, for a horror one shot, obviously I would put, as I have every other year, I'd put like content warnings out at the start of the episode to say like, hey, there's going to be a lot of focus in this episode on blood, guts, gore, blah 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 blah, and people can walk away from the story and make themselves feel safe as needed. So, um, I posted that document or the screenshot of that document to the Twitch Tales in my Discord and said like, what sort of story do you reckon you'd be into for this year? And people are starting to come back with their thoughts on it. It's not a poll. I'm not feeling myself constrained to following what people are saying, but I'm probably going to be swayed by it at the very least. A lot of people interested in Lovecraftian this year, which is really interesting. So I might be exploring some aboleths and some Lovecraftian horror, which is a good excuse for me to actually read up a little bit more on Lovecraft and what makes Lovecraftian horror actually Lovecraftian. Because I've never really fully gone into Lovecraft. I've read one of his short stories when I used to do a lot of Robert Reed's, um, The Crypt, I think it was called, or the Red Crypt or something. Um, read one of his stories, but not much. It also was pretty tame as far as Lovecraft goes. Might actually read a Cthulhu story or something before, if that's the way that we end up going. Don't know, still deciding. But yes, that is what I'm working on at the moment. Working towards Halloween. Can make graphs? You can make graphs, Fancy. Yes, we're going to take all of the private sanctums and start to come up with trends. Consent form. Oops, yes, I must put that you reminded me. I mean, oh my god, Dad, yes, totally will do. I think you could differentiate between harm to animals and animal abuse, because harm to animals sounds like hunting for food might be included. Yeah, I am going to revisit my consent form and the wording of it at some point in the future because there are things that I feel people aren't taking as I meant them. Um, And harm to animals is one of those things. It's like I don't like people often have to ask for clarification of like if we get attacked by a pack of wolves, are we allowed to defend ourselves? It's like yeah, absolutely. Does that count as harm to animals? For some people it does. For some people it doesn't. So I need to kind of try and get clarification on that. Nature fighting back could be cool if it wasn't animals. Yeah, just like the weather is fighting you and the plants are fighting you, and there's like a fungus that's causing you to do things. Starts getting into zombie territory. I don't know. Fish people and tentacles are a big thing in Lovecraft. Yeah, and there's a lot of fish things and things with tentacles in D&D, which is good. It also is that a hard line across the board, or do they trust you to handle it with the appropriate lines? Yes, exactly. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I'm going to end it there because I've got stuff to do today and good timing. Stomach. I need to go get some food. Thanks for being patrons. Thanks for being awesome. Thank you for your patience while I've been traveling and not putting things up on Patreon quite as often as I have been in previous times. But I have yesterday uploaded a whole bunch of stuff, and while we've been talking, I just uploaded another one. The short rest with Spattles is uploaded and scheduled to go out as well. So so yeah, I will hope to get back to a slightly more routine thing of posting on Patreon and especially on Instagram and stuff as well. I'm going to catch up there as well. But until then, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it all. You help maintain me able to do traveling and do what I enjoy for a living. There's something coming to Patreon soon that you guys get access to first. I don't actually know what Fancy is referring to there, but it's probably because I have forgotten it. Thank you all for being here. I will see you later on today if you can make it. I'd love to see you for the sync stream in what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit hours. 4 hours 20 minutes ish. I'll be doing a stream where I go through Johnny Stanton's Pirate Supplemental for 5e and look at like the different subclasses and things. So I'll see you then for that one, or I'll see you if you can't make that one. I'll see you on Tuesday for the behind the scenes of Adventures in Othrim 202. Bye.